Functions1 worksheet. We're going to find some statistics. We have a collection of data and we wish to find maximum, minimum, range, mean and median statistics regarding this data. The minimum. We'll start with the minimum. We put the formula for the minimum in there. The function for the minimum can be found in a drop-down menu. There's actually many functions that can be found if you select more functions. Right now, the minimum is easily accessible. There's brackets. We must fill the range of data in the brackets. You see it says from E2 to S6. Hit enter the minimum data element 38. Instead of selecting the maximum from the drop-down menu, we could, it is there. You can also start to type it. MAX. You can select it. It tells you that you must give it data. We select the data as before. The largest number in this data set, 86. The range in values. There is actually no range function. The range in the data is the maximum minus the minimum. So we can click on these data values, hit enter, and find that the range of the data is 48. The mean. The mean, there is no mean function. There is instead an average function. We begin typing average. You see that the word average is included in many functions. Select the correct one, give it the function, the data, hit enter. If you get too many decimal places, you can chop them down using one of the buttons up above. One decimal place might be good enough. The median of the data. Start typing it. There is only one median function. Select it. It needs the data. Select the data. Hit enter. 62 is the median. There's 75 numbers. If you arrange them in order from smallest to largest, then the middle number is 62. So if you look back, select the minimum calculation, you see in the formula bar that the minimum takes E2 to S6. You see how this data region is shaded. There's a colon in between E2 and S6. The value we got in this case, the value we got was 38. What if you use a comma between E2 and S6? What value do you get in that case? Remember, you can start typing the formula. I do not need uppercase letters. The minimum of, suppose I put in E2 comma S6. You see what has happened? Excel has highlighted two numbers only, the number in E2 and the number in S6. So if I use a comma, I get a different selection of data. Of course, the smallest number of 69 and 54 is 54. And so be careful, watch the syntax of your expressions. If I have a colon between E2 and S6, it means all the data from E2 over and including S6. If I have a comma between E2 and S6, then it selects only the cells E2 and S6. Let us find the mean in a different way in order to use some different functions. Suppose you wished to add up all these numbers. You could begin to click on them. E2 plus, F2 plus, the third number plus, the fourth number plus, and so on. That would be very time consuming, however, and is unnecessary because we have a sum function. Be careful, there's many functions that use the word sum. Select the correct function and then select the data, the numbers that you wish to be added up. Hit enter. If we were to add all those numbers up, we would get 4,598. It says there's 75 numbers in this data. Let's count them by using the count function. Select count, select the data, hit enter. 75 numbers are in the data. And now how do you find the average or the mean of this data? Well, before we use the average function, this time we have the sum, we have added the numbers up, and we can divide by how many there are to count. Same answer as before, 61.3 if we chop some decimal places. In Unit 4, we will be using a standard deviation function. The first two letters of the word standard and the first three letters of the word deviation is where the function name comes from. Equals. I start typing StD, and you see that there's a few functions involving those letters. Be sure to select the correct one and give it the data. However many decimal places you need, you can chop them down if you like. The variance. If you were calculating the standard deviation by hand, you would probably find the variance first, take the square root, and that would be the standard deviation. However, if you know the standard deviation, then to get the variance, you do the opposite thing. Instead of taking the square root, you square it. And so the variance is the standard deviation squared. And that brings us to the end of the Functions 1 worksheet.